Hey there, it's been a little bit. Maybe like 9, 10 months since the last one. I've gone through a lot since then, but unfortunately the game hasn't grown in that time. I would have loved to work on it, but I had sort of a wake-up call. Mainly my bank account and some bills. So I looked into freelancing while I had the time. While I did get a gig, it's not something I could rely on with full confidence, so instead I took a promotion at my day job to go full-time. It is tough since it means less dev time, but getting away from a paycheck-to-paycheck lifestyle is a good offer too. And perhaps less stress will make things easier too. But because of the virus, I'm getting more time to work on my projects again. Only downside is I'm very rusty. It's been about 4 months since I've done any modeling, and another 5 months since I've done any programming. Since I'm pretty rusty on all regards, I've decided to work away from my main project while I catch back up. At my day job, I've been tinkering with an idea to speed up my workflow, a toolbar for the scene view. From the level design tool, I found the most tedious part to be the layout code. It's a little silly, but it did bug me until it started looking reasonable while being easy to ignore. Instead of redoing that step for every tool, I can reuse that code. And I can throw in some small quality of life functions to help out from time to time. As for the tool's requirements, I'll need to build a small variety of pre-made controls to knock out most cases. For the cases where a function can benefit from a better interface, I can write up a specialized one. So the best approach would be to use inheritance, with there being so much overlap in the backend. With that flexibility, it should be quick to implement a small function. One tool I'd like to make is a selection history. For larger scenes, this could be useful to compare different objects back and forth. It is helpful that selections are saved into undo, but if I needed to copy a bunch of variables back and forth, those would get undone as well. A selection locker would be handy too, mainly because it's easy for me to miss when this button is off and on. To start working with selections, I can hook into the editor's onSelection change delegate to start tracking changes. However, this tracks selections anywhere in the editor. Maybe later I'll add a preference to toggle, but for now this conditional will isolate it to scene objects. For every time the selection is an additive, I'll keep track of it. And already with that, the tool's practically finished. I overrode the interface button for better navigating as well. I'm liking the look of it. It's a new day and I'd like to start with another duel. A camera angle saver. Sometimes getting a good angle to work with can be tedious, especially when it's cramped or you're working in a large space and you're having to fly around everywhere. There's 2 hurdles that the tool will have that I can already see. 1, the data will need to be scene specific, so the data needs to reside in that scene. And 2, naming every view with a good description would be easy to forget, especially after a day or 2. So a thumbnail to view will need to be required. Keeping the data in a scene is easy, it'll just be a game object. But I'll hide it away by changing the hide flag and withhold it from a build by giving it the editor only tag. Changing the camera is a little tricky. You see, there's actually another script that handles the camera's variables for the scene view, so any direct changes to the camera's variables are immediately overwritten. Luckily enough, the controller has the look-at function where I can provide the view's information, the same one from the Windows menu bar, so I get the nice animation for free. Getting the thumbnail was a little trickier than I thought. At first I thought I could get a render texture out of the camera, but turns out handles and gizmos are drawn after everything, and then are layered on top, so that didn't really work too well. Instead, I did some digging and found an internal class that can screenshot the editor with a rect input. For internal classes, it's best to be a little cautious since they're undocumented and likely to change, but I feel pretty good about this since this class has a few years of history to it. To save out the image, it'll need to be saved out as a file like this. Luckily, I don't need to know how exactly encoding a file works, since texture2d.encode will handle that for me. And then we'll let the editor's asset database know of the new file. Normally, this gets called every time the editor detects a change when the file is dragged in, or the window gets focused again. Since I'm doing it through code, I'll need to let Unity know manually. Since the scene view can be any proportion, it'll need to be cropped down. Plus, the crop will cut down on the file size. Unfortunately, this took a lot longer than I originally thought. After a lot of debug logs and out-of-bound errors, I scrapped absolutely everything and took a walk around the neighborhood to figure things out. For the math, I need to find out if the width or the height is the shortest. From that, I can use a proportion to figure out the remaining side. Centering it is easy, just gotta offset the pixel selection of the original width minus the final width, and then divide by 2. To be honest, I think I was just getting frustrated since it didn't work out the first time. Taking a step back was definitely the best call for me. As for the rest of the night to Sunday, I decided to take a short break off. Since I started to feel pretty odd, I'm pretty positive it's just my allergies, but I'd prefer to be safe and rest up. After all, with everything going on right now, it's been taking a toll on my stress. Some personal time with a lot of Animal Crossing, Divinity, and anime should help these things. Plus, this buys more time to research one last thing. Keeping the toolbar on screen while being able to add other functions from multiple scripts is a little problematic. Unlike game scripts, you can't state the execution order of editor scripts. As it turns out, those two cases are called separately from one another. And even better, it's in the order I want it to be. On GUI, then during scene GUI, delegate. I even double checked in the source code just to make sure I wasn't getting lucky with the call order. With this order, I can go down 2 routes safely. If any script goes to make a toolbar, it'll merge the request with the default toolbar from OnGUI, so that the default toolbar controls are always drawn first. But if nothing is wanting to draw the toolbar by itself, then it'll define and draw itself. There are some things I'd still like to improve, like neater code and optimization, a nicer aesthetic in general, and some features to help out to take from project to project. I've already got an idea for a favorites list for game objects, like the main character, so I don't have to hunt through the hierarchy window as much for commonly needed items. But most importantly, I want to make attributes to skip out on writing a whole custom editor every time I need to make a quick tool. For now, I'm going to call it here and continue on in the next one. But before I send you all off, I want to take a moment and say thank you for the supportive comments since I last uploaded. I would reread them from time to time, and it only ever made me want to get back into this even more once I got into a better position at my day job. Anyways, I hope you guys stay safe, and have a good one.